Hey, Jasmine, you have some big news to share, I think, about some marketplace. Well, tell me what you guys are working on.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Happy to. Indeed, we have some exciting developments over here at Shiru. Um, in a couple days, we're going to be launching what we're calling the Protein Marketplace, which really is a new business model for Shiru and really involves us giving more easy access to the tremendous database of natural proteins that we have developed here at Shiru, as well as providing access to the tools that we've developed to be able to query that database and create more sustainable products.
So, who's the customer base you're targeting? Is it someone who's building a next generation food product, a plant based protein? Is it someone who's building some
Mhm.
sort of uh, new food product, or is it like, hey, average Joe consumer can order something off of the website that just he wants
Yeah,
a certain type of ingredient?
it's a super question. First of all, maybe I'll just like take a step back. This type of approach is very new and very different
Mm,
for, I think, the entire industry. Leveraging tools like large databases, machine learning, as well as synthetic biology, it's like not that typically that easy to like get
yeah.
access to the products that are created through those things. And so we've taken really kind of creative stab at disrupting the way that these products are actually brought to market, and even creating literally like a marketplace where we aim to foster some competitive dialogue around like the industrialization and commercialization of these products. And so we have a couple of kind of target profiles in mind. One is really the large ingredients developer, or even certain cases CPG company that has pretty clear problem statements in terms of like what they need novel ingredients to be able to solve, but they don't have solutions at their fingertips. And like finding those solutions traditionally means either doing it all in house, so that's like building big teams of R&D scientists, researchers, deploying lots of capital and typically taking years to come up with
Mm.
solutions, or working with innovators. But even in that case, and like we've been doing that for years, even in that case, like those conversations are typically done under like veils of confidentiality, lots of like one-on-one business development discussions. And truthfully, like with some of the tools that we use at Shiru and artificial intelligence included, like the pace of discovery so outmatched the pace of commercialization
Mm.
that we wanted to try and close that gap a little more. And using an online marketplace concept was is kind of our approach to being able to do that.
So, this is probably for during the phase of the project where they're building their next CPG product. If they want
Mhm.
to ultimately scale that, would they say, hey, this protein, this input works well for us. We want to then mass produce this. Do they then license that from you, or how do you take it to phase two after they buy it on the marketplace?
Yeah, totally. Great question. So there's certainly IP that's involved in this, right? So it's not like, maybe some of the more off the shelf like SaaS platforms where you're like paying for access to like really a tool. We have tools, but we also have like a large database that's full of valuable compounds. And so the connection of what those natural proteins are with their function is really the IP that Shiru has created in this case. And so you can envision that, product formulator is looking for natural emulsifying proteins, for example, to remove some things that are maybe not clean label or not sustainably sourced, or maybe not even meeting the functionality metrics that are required from the product. They're going to be able to come to the marketplace, look through our database, identify natural emulsifiers from what we have already scoped and identified. And then there are a couple of ways to engage. So, one, just like on the kind of public facing version of this that anyone can access, folks can request samples. So you can put in a request for a sample, and in a limited period of time, Shiro is going to send you that sample to your lab, which is pretty neat. Also, I think like, as close as we are right now to kind of like a chat GPT for biology is like really like what we're leaning towards. And then the other way to, and that's a very small sample. So it's for like purely lab investigation, evaluation. And then the other way that they can engage is certainly to license the IP. And so the default then is that they will get a non-exclusive license for the IP. In that case, it's a novel ingredient to use. And if they want exclusive access to that ingredient, that's a conversation that we're ready to have as well. But I think the default is non-exclusive. If they get good validation on it, then we can go to discussions around exclusivity.
So you said the number is into the hundreds of, maybe you said millions. How many compounds do you have that they could search on in the marketplace?
33 million
Okay,
natural.
that's crazy. So this is something where you just like, you don't just have a little library shelf, you pull one off if there's 33 million. So are you like, for every order that comes in for a sample, are you then kind of doing some work in the lab to produce this for them? How are you spitting this
Yeah,
out for them?
yeah, it's like pretty wild, Mike, to think about. And like even here at Shiru, like we are a team of really creative technologists and like really
Hmm.
creative, nimble business people too. I think about it, it's almost like, Wizard of Oz when like behind the curtain there's like all this stuff going on. It's like a little bit of what it's going to be like. But yeah, essentially like once we get in a request for a particular sample, we are going to produce that sample and send that out to the purchaser, so that they can do the investigation and validation of that in their lab. Previously, like generation one of Shiru, we were doing all of that validation work in our labs. And so, of course, that like takes a long time, and it's maybe less scalable than what we're moving towards, which is really providing others the ability to do that validation in their own labs. And certainly, I think, we feel comfortable doing that because of this massive database that we have. It's not like one solution that comes out of that. It's typically a large number of solutions, and so that's why we're excited to provide more access to that.
Is there any sort of application or pre-requirement if you're just opening this up to anyone who wants to do this? uh, How are you basically kind of gating it? Because I can see an influx of requests coming and your team being overwhelmed. I'm not really sure the kind of the back end capacity that's producing these, but are they
Yeah,
saying, are they paying for this? Okay, you're saying, hey, this is legitimate CPG, or if some rando in Texas just starts ordering a bunch of these and is putting a bunch of work on your team. How
it's
do
a
you
great
gate against
question.
that?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, and this is like a lot of kind of what we're evolving as a company as well. And so I think, certainly software moves at a much faster speed than kind of traditional food. And so we're also having to like rethink our ways of working here at Shiru to like try and match that speed closer, which has been really exciting. So I think initially, like on the kind of open platform, folks are going to be able to request samples. Our intent is to deliver on all of those samples. If for some reason we're overwhelmed by the number of requests, then we'll just communicate that with folks and there'll be like a waiting list essentially. Um, and then that's kind of like without having to pay for additional access. You can just like request samples. So the other kind of higher tier access, I would say, to like access more of the data is through a paid version of our platform. And so this is something that we're very much crafting custom, I would say, like tailored to the specific needs of the partners that we're working with. A CPG company might have a very different use case for our platform than an ingredients company might, for example. So I think it's going to be a lot of, customer discovery conversations that we're already having to basically best position the offering so that it's actually solving a challenge that is very tailored to the partner's needs.
Is it then like I can just go and search on the marketplace and order a sample, there's no cost to me other than creating an account at this point?
So great question. So we'll get into the specifics of it. So we've kind of put in a couple of creative ways of like filtering out, I think, self-filtering, like who who will
Yeah.
request a sample at the end of the day. So first of all, they're not free. So we're charging something for them.
Okay.
And that's really just to like because it costs us money to generate the samples, right? So we are charging for it. So, it's not like anyone that's gonna request it. And then additionally, the sample that we provide, these are very pure samples of protein in very small quantities. And so I'm talking about like research grade, high purity, very low volume. And so that also kind of will like self filter in terms of who can actually use the sample. Um, I think food CPG companies may not always have the analytical capabilities to be able to test a sample that's like on the milligrams scale.
Hmm.
Certainly, labs and companies that have like sophisticated, biochemical assaying will. And so we're also that's the type of partner, the type of customer that we want to be engaging with at this stage. So if a random person buys a sample, like you can pay us for it, but you might not be able to use it unless you have like a protein lab at your disposal. So
Yeah. I visited your headquarters or your location
Mhm.
in Alameda last year. And is this the production facility, or are you partnering with someone? What is the back end where you're kind of producing all these different samples that are going out the door?
Yeah, we have a couple of different, ways to produce. So certainly we can produce here in our facility, and we're also establishing some partnerships with labs that can also produce. So I think
Hmm.
we've kind of set up, a couple of different tiers in terms
Hmm.
of like depending on the demand for the samples. Like we can produce them here, we can produce them with our partners, and it'll depend on the response that we get. And we're really excited to see kind of what that is.
Hmm. And there's never been anything like this in your mind. You guys are kind of think this is a first of a kind, essentially marketplace for ordering samples for proteins like this.
It's the first one that I know of, Mike. It's been something that we've been chatting about at the board level and with Shiru's investors for actually a couple of years now.
Hmm.
Because honestly, and kind of more of the history of the company, like we developed the software, we developed the database, which has been a core element of our value proposition over the last couple of years. It hasn't been until now that we actually built a user interface for it
Hmm.
so other people can access it. So it's a tool that, we did not develop this overnight. This has been developed literally over the last 5 years with our team of experts. But now we've added the ability to more simply query that database so that people who don't have, advanced degrees in bioinformatics or protein structure can actually go in and identify novel molecules that meet needs that they have. So we've made it very accessible.
All right. And you're announcing this next week. And it's exciting news. Congratulations on that, Jasmine.
Yeah.
And people can just go to the normal Shiru website to find out more information about it.
There'll certainly be information on shiru.com. However, this has a dedicated website.
Oh,
So it's going to be proteindiscovery.ai.
oh, nice.
So you can just check out proteindiscovery.ai and welcome to the world of natural proteins. We're really excited to make that accessible to folks.
The Amazon for proteins is what you're trying to build.
I mean, basically, it's as close as that as one can get, I think. Yeah.
Exciting news. All right. Thanks, Jasmine.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Mike.